The views and opinions provided on this show are for informational purposes only and should not be misinterpreted as an offer to buy or sell any securities or to make or consider any investment or course of action. For more information, please go to passiveinvestorshow.com.
And now, the Passive Investor Show. Here's your host, John Fortes.
Welcome, PI listeners, to the Passive Investor Show. I'm the Passive Investor Consultant, John Fortes, your host of the only ranked podcast for passive investors in multifamily syndications and real estate funds. Our goal and purpose of this show is to be a resource to passive investors and help them master their passive investments by beating inflation 1% at a time. How do we track investments? As a passive investor, how do we track our investments? Well, the easiest way to do that is being a part of some sponsors' investor portal that will track and manage everyone's investments as they participate in investments with that particular sponsor. But what happens if we are a part of multiple sponsors from different investor portals? How do we track our investments in that case or scenario? Well, the only way to do that really is to create your own spreadsheet, monitor them and track them all on one flowing sheet to see which operators or which investments you have made are performing better than the other. So for instance, if you have investment one with sponsor A and investment two with sponsor B, what are you looking to track in those investments? First, you want to take the projected returns and model them in a spreadsheet. And you want to put them against the actual performance and model that in the same spreadsheet. Well, John, I don't have time to do all of this. I know, I get it. As a passive investor myself, I had to create this. So I created a spreadsheet that allows me to see the projected returns against the actual performance against other investments. And it includes the graphs, and it shows me in real time the actual IRR, equity multiple, the average cash on cash, the cash flow, the annual cash on cash, the actual cash flow from each investment, the annual cash on cash from each investment, and it goes up against them in charts. The IRR, equity multiple, and average cash on cash are all charted as well. And that's how I see my investments if I'm using sponsor A and sponsor B, and they have each separate investor portals. So what I do with my investors is when I send out offerings or they sign up on my investor portal, I give them access to this spreadsheet because I know my investments are tracked in my portal. But I want the investments that an investor makes with me up against anybody else's. I have nothing to hide. We're full disclosure. We offer that to our investors. We are full transparency. And I want to know if my investments ain't meeting their criteria or they're being outperformed from someone else. So I give my sheet out to my investors. And I just started rolling this out to my investors because I wanted to make sure all the bells and whistles were ironed out when I created my spreadsheet. So I want it to look a certain way for when you look at it, you're like, oh, all right, it's easy. And it's really easy to input the stuff too. So for instance, everything in blue is where you input and everything in black is the output. So you're only putting in, for instance, on investment one, you can change the name of investment one and you put the dates, the date of it starting, the investment. And then you put your capital you invested. So for instance, investment name, investment one, investment date, we'll use Halloween, and then capital invested, 100,000. And now we'll put it up against the other performance. So the only thing you're putting in the performance column is how many years is the holding period, and then the expected sales proceeds. That's it. Now the actual performance column, you don't know that. So you're going to leave those blank. For instance, if it exits in 3 years, now you can go and update it and say it exited. If it exits in 3 years, you can say it exited in 2023 instead of 2025. Now, what does it look like when we have a 5-year projections and every quarter it'll break down as the projected cash flow is there already for you. So as you continue to get cash flow every quarter, you can go ahead and say, yep, we met expectations. And let's say for the sake of this deal, it's populating 1750 every quarter. So I get 1,750 this quarter. And let's say the expectations came back perfect. Boom, I made that 1,750 this quarter. And then I can go ahead and check it off in real time and start to see how it's starting to progress. And it populates everything else for you. And the last thing you would include on this as well is you would put the projected investor yield, meaning say it's a preferred return, it's a 7% pref, but you know that it's going to change every year. If it's a 7% pref through the life of it, you can just go across and put 7% for the 5-year hold period. If it's 7%, 7.4, 7.5, 8.2, 9.1 for that 5-year hold period, you can put those numbers in there and it'll do all of the math for you. So this is my form that I personally use. It's something that helps me really see if my opportunities are performing to the sponsor's projected expectations. But yeah, it's very convenient. It's efficient, easy to use. If I had to do a tutorial video on this, it would be all of 3 to 5 minutes. That's it. Just to show you how it works. And I think the bulk of that would be on the chart section, the graphs. And it'll just show you how to look at it, how to compare, but that's fairly easy. So this is how you project your investments, how to manage, how to track them. We at the Fortes Company, we give these to our investors, and we want to be compared to the other people that's doing it, because that's the only way we're going to get better. So this is how we help our investors as passive investors. We understand passive investors. We want to be a partner to passive investors, because we don't only help you with opportunities. We actually partner with you, and we're considered a team member to your financial team. We're not trying to replace anybody. So we give you these tools to help you become a better passive investor. Just to summarize everything we just discussed on this is, how do we model or project our investments compared to other investors, other investments we have made with other sponsors on other portals. One, if you're using one sponsor and you're on a portal, you don't need to do this. Everything's on the portal for you. You can track your investments that way. But if you have multiple sponsors and multiple opportunities coming from that you are already invested in, you want to put them up against each other to see which ones are performing the way that you think, you can go ahead and use this spreadsheet in many ways, in many versions, and comparing opportunities, seeing how they project out and how they map out in real time. This week's Investor 101 series, it's more about forecasting. It's more about efficiency, because at the end of the day, you want to track your investments in real time. How do you do that? You either got to create it yourself, but I've done that for you with this spreadsheet. I'd be happy to give it to you. We give it to our investors. just reach out to johnfortes.com. Go to the website, fill out the investor form, leave a comment in is there anything else what else do I need to know about you? Just say, please send me the investor projection sheet. At Fortes Company, we look to help investors, whether you invest with us or not. It's just a part of us giving back to the community because every investor should have something like this in their tool belt that'll help them and work for them. PI listeners, thank you for listening. As always, we hope this was the best resource for your investment strategy, but also the best use of your time. As much as it pains us to leave you, but you know what time it is. Time to go put this into practice. Till the next time we meet. Happy investing. PI listeners, I'm grateful for your time and I appreciate you for listening. It would mean the world to me if you went to iTunes and left a rating and written review. Let me know how you feel about the show. It really makes a big difference with getting the podcast out there. Don't forget about our Facebook group, where all of our guests are members of. I'll be there to answer any of your questions, or even questions you might have for future guests. Subscribe so you can get the latest episodes and our fan favorite quick hitters. Finally, I want to keep you updated, so head over to johnfortes.com and sign up for the newsletter. If you're interested in partnering with me, sign up on the contact page so you can talk to me directly. I look forward to connecting with you. Happy investing.